I'm Coach Kevin Guy, and this is Rattlers Uncoiled.
I see.
Don't ever question me, baby. Look at those banners up in the air.
Welcome to the Rattlers Uncoiled. It's our second edition of our new podcast for the season. We'll be here before every home game, talking about the previous game and the next game coming up. I'm Jay Gonzalez, Director of Media for the Rattlers, here with head coach Kevin Guy. Kevin, we took a loss over the weekend, and it was a tough one. We got beat up pretty good. Just give us some of your thoughts as to where you think your team is. What have you learned about your team here in the first couple of games?
Sure. Well, listen, we got exactly what we deserved. We weren't ready to play, and there's a learning curve to playing in this game. And we have a lot of rookies. Our on defense, we were pretty much all rookies on defense. Hayden Hatcher, a linebacker, is a second-year player, but he's a rookie in this system. So everybody else on defense is a rookie, and we have such a complicated system to learn, and then it always takes several weeks to learn, and we kind of know we're going to make a lot of mistakes early in the season. We're one gap defense. We had guys that weren't in their gaps. We were getting crack blocked with the vertical motion, and this game is really fast. We didn't see that in the first game. First game, Nate Davis, they just line up, come straight downhill at you, throw the ball. It was easy to get these guys aligned, and we just had to cover and rush the passer. So a little bit different, philosophy that Dixie had up in Fishers, and they're going to run the ball, and they're going to come in and crack your linebackers, and we prepared for it, but game speed and what we do in practice are two different things. And, it's also our first trip. We went to Indianapolis. Teams got to learn how to travel and be in the right frame of mind.
It's a different deal, right? I mean,
and there's so much that goes into, playing the game, like from a psychological standpoint. I'm big, psychology is my background, but, Fishers got beat up in Green Bay, and then they had a bye week, and they're coming into the game with a completely different frame of mind than what we were. We were coming, young group, coming off a big win.
Felt good about the win.
San Diego, felt good about it. You can preach against that all week long, but it's just human nature. And we were in a different frame of mind, and so it's a learning. It's a learning experience for the players. And we went up to Indianapolis on Final Four weekend. There was a lot of traffic. People coming and going, and it was our first time there. They did a great job of hosting us. Great venue, great fan base, and we just got our butts kicked. And listen, it's early in the season. I'm okay with that. We need to learn from it.
As you're going through a game like that, where you were getting pushed around, they scored on every possession. What are you trying to do to make adjustments, to figure out what they're doing and offset what they're doing, or you just kind of like keep running what you run and hope it works? How does that? What's going through a coach's mind?
There was a little gamesmanship going on, with the coaches. Their iPads were working, ours wasn't, but they got to see everything and make adjustments and challenge calls. We were, like old school, like it was 10 years ago. We're trying to make adjustments on the fly, but it was Coach Wooten. They're going to be a team to beat in the East, and it was a good experience for us on the road and that kind of physical play. Our players needed to see the speed of the game, the physicality of that type of game, and it's football. You're going to get you're going to see a different philosophy and different schemes from week to week, and you got to be able to adjust. And we're going to find out what guys on our team. We talk about intelligence, having football IQ that can take a game plan from week to week, and we got a new game plan every week based on who we're playing.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So, with the youth that you have specifically on defense, what are some of the specific issues, the things that you see that you attribute to that youth? Whether you talk about
well, it's just
assignments and those kinds of things.
Yeah, it's just an experience. It's just an experience. So we got the talent. Talent level will be there. It's just reps. And these guys getting experience, and as they get experience, we'll improve. We had a very physical practice today, and I think the guys were, obviously didn't like how they played and wanted to come out and but they needed to see it on film. Once you're going to go through it, it's a fast game. That vertical motion, when you play outdoor, when you're a rookie and you're coming in as a defensive player and you've just seen horizontal motion and one guy go in motion your whole career, and you come in here and there's two vertical guys coming running full speed downhill at you, and it's not one but two, there's an adjustment. And then you still have to crack, replace, be in the right gaps, cover. So it's just a big learning curve for them, and it's something that everyone has to go through. And 3-4 games into the season, you'll see the light bulbs start to come on.
What were you looking for in practice today? As you mentioned, this was your first practice after the game because of travel and whatnot. So you've had one practice with these guys since the loss. What did that look like to you today?
Well, the first message was to my staff was like, hey, I don't want a lot of yelling, screaming in the meetings because they're upset because they didn't do what they were told during the week. It's a teaching moment, and we need to understand where we're at as a team, and where we're planning on being at by the end of the year. And so, we start there. But we got great leadership in the locker room this year. I thought the guys came out, and practiced really hard today. And so that tells me that's a sign of a winning group, and I expect them to play a lot different this weekend.
That sounds great. Because that's a kind of thing, especially if you got a young team, right?
Yeah,
they don't like losing. They may not be used to losing. You've mentioned a number of times that you don't lose the championship in the first few weeks of the season. Where are you trying to get to? And do you section off the season like some coaches do? 4 games, 8 games, whatever. What are you looking for? By when do you feel some of this stuff needs to be worked out so that you kind of maybe get into a groove or something?
Yeah, we're one day at a time, and I don't try to look at a 4-game stretch or an 8-game stretch. I mean, I think that's silly. It's a day-to-day business. It's about production and improving every day, and these players have a chance to come to this league. It's a developmental league, and have them add value to their careers. And and I think if you get too far looking ahead, you kind of lose your focus on what you're trying to accomplish, and it's really working through the process from day to day, trying to improve on fundamentals, technique, learning the scheme, going out and executing. And when you do that, and you just focus on doing things right, the wins and losses will take care of itself.
We know that this is a league where guys come and go, right?
Yeah.
Week to week, that kind of stuff. Can you recognize stuff that's after 1 game or 2 games, whether a guy is going to fit in or if he's going to be able to do the job for you or not? And how hard is it to go through that and make those changes as needed, or is it not hard because you say I got to get a guy in there who can help me win?
Sure. Well, the one thing that you can't coach is effort. They control that, right? And I was disappointed during the game. You just watching the game. Not being able to stop the run, it just takes the heart right out of a defense, right? And again, as I said earlier, we had to go through it, but at the same time, I was looking for guys that wanted to bow up, compete a little bit, and you saw that towards the end when we got down in the red zone. The guys were firing off, playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage. We stuffed them a few times, and and quite frankly, they brought a back out that we haven't seen. He was a big physical running back, and you go from seeing these little 180, 90-pound running backs to a 230, 40-pound running back. You better lower your pad level or you're going to get ran over. So we had a lot of guys tackling high. And on a small roster, you can only demonstrate so much physicality during the week because you don't want to lose the game before you play it. And what I mean by that is losing players during the week to injuries, and then they're not ready for the game. So the game is won on Saturday, right? It's not won on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we're always trying to get to the game healthy on a small roster, and then from a mindset standpoint, get them to play a physical style of Rattler football.
All right. Well, we're going to have Brent Stover, do we call him the voice of the IFL? He's the play-by-play guy.
He's definitely over all the broadcasts.
Doing all the broadcasts. He's going to be calling. He called our game on Sunday. He's going to call our game this Saturday. We've got the Gunslingers coming in at 6 o'clock on Saturday. We're going to talk to him here in just a second after the break, and then we're going to go into the Gunslingers and see what we've got on coming up with us at the Snake Pit on Saturday. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to Rattlers Uncoiled. We're here at our studio with head coach Kevin Guy. I'm Jay Gonzalez, director of media for the Arizona Rattlers, and our second episode guest is Brent Stover. Brent, can we call you the voice of the IFL? You're the main guy on the broadcast, doing both Yahoo and overnight. And you did our last game on Sunday. You're coming to town to do our game this week. What do we call you?
Yeah, no, that's good enough. I mean, Kevin may not want me being the voice of the league anymore after, my first game of the year. I was all excited to be out there Sunday night, and so I just hope he keeps me around a little bit. So I appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Well, we appreciate you joining us. Well, as I said, you did our game on Sunday. It wasn't a great outcome for the Rattlers, but let me ask you first. We're 4 weeks into the season, and I don't think people realize that because we've only had 2 games, right? But
right.
We're nearly a month into the season. First impressions of the league, what you've seen around the league, teams, players, those kinds of things. Some quick thoughts on that.
Yeah, the parity. I think it's tough to tell in the first month of the season because of the buys and stuff. I'm interested to see, a couple of these teams that have only played 1 game. I'm a massive fan of the Rattlers, and after their first game, I'm not just saying it because I'm on your show, but I said that's a top 2 or 3 team in the league once again in 2026, and even after last week, I still feel the same way. Green Bay 3-0, that's got to be a huge storyline. Fishers, the way they were able to run the ball on Sunday night, they've been, they're 2-1, obviously. They had their sluggish game, but they looked fantastic against Quad City in the opener and again at home against Arizona the other night. So, to me, the product on the field has been fantastic. It's cool for us to have the partnership with Overnight and Yahoo Sports as well. I think it's going to be, one of the best seasons, if not the best the IFL has ever had, especially because of, the eyeballs and the marketing and the homes that we're going to be getting into. And I think a lot of people are going to get exposed who aren't already fans of the Indoor Football League.
Kevin?
Yeah, it's been great working with you. I won't hold anything against you for the loss this past weekend. But, it was Final Four weekend. You had double duty up there. You were working some pregame shows, right, at the Final Four, and I don't know what else you had. I saw Pat Paris came to the game. I know you guys have some history together, and I was going to ask. I know you ran track at Kansas State. I heard you set a record up there. So I'd like to hear about this record, and then I also want to know who was faster, you or Pat Paris. And where did y'all run? Where were y'all together at?
Yeah, well, no. So he's a little bit older than me, but
okay.
I got that on him. But he was much faster. I mean, I believe he was in the Olympic trials in the early to mid '90s, and he ran at Drake and Arizona as well. I ran at Kansas State. I wish I could say I had a record. I ran 4:15 in the mile, which I get a lot of credit for. But even at that time, that didn't even get you close to making the finals at the Big 12 Conference Championships. I mean, it's just. You had to have the ability to run down near 404, 405, maybe 406. So my 415 wasn't really there. But yeah, Pat and I, we go way back, and it's been cool this season. I guess it started last August at the championship game when we ran into each other at the national title game for the IFL. I hadn't seen him in years, and he was one of my best friends. We worked together in Pittsburgh at Fox Sports and then again at Fox Sports in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. But I probably hadn't seen him in 15, 20 years. So we kind of reconnected through this thing. But, yeah, he's a great guy, does a great job, and it's cool that he's going to be calling a lot of our games and do it sideline as well.
Well, Jared Wyndham must have gave me the wrong information because he told me y'all ran track together. So that's why I was asking. I was like, no, I think there was a little bit of an age difference there.
Yeah, there was a little bit of an age difference. And I do have to, I wish I didn't have to say it, but Pat was much better. He was an elite 800-meter runner at the time. Like, he was one of the best in the country. And so, yeah, I wish I could go with you on that, but Jared sometimes overhypes me a little bit. So he kind of sees me through Brent goggles a little bit. So I guess I'll take it. It's better than the alternative.
Talk to me about I see that you are a little bit of a local legend with country music in New York City. I want to hear about this and what do you play any guitar instruments? What do you do with the country music?
Yeah, so I play country music. I play a lot of acoustic shows, like me and one other guy. I've written a lot of my own stuff. I've released 6 songs, so 5 originals, and then I released a country cover of Mr. Brightside. Kind of slowed it down, gave it some steel guitar, gave it that country feel. None of my music has made a whole lot of traction, but it's been kind of fun to have that outlet and that hobby. And then, yeah, really for the last 8 or 9 years, I've been playing around New York City pretty regularly until the middle of last summer. And I've been on a little bit of a hiatus, but we're getting the band back together, and I'm playing at this new bar down in the East Village called Lucinda's, which is a really cool stage, and I'm thrilled. I'm playing there in 2 Thursdays, the 23rd, playing with the full band. So playing a lot of covers, maybe mixing a couple of originals, but yeah, kind of trying to make it a little bit, but if nothing else, it's a great hobby, and it's a lot of fun. And now with Jason Fitz, part of the deal with Yahoo Sports and doing IFL games. Obviously, he was the fiddle player for the band Perry for years and has played with Phil Vassar and Chris Young and guys like that, Edmund McCain. So we're going to get something together this summer in Arizona or Vegas or somewhere. Maybe you could help us book a gig, Kevin. You got connections out there.
It's funny. You just said Phil Vassar. I know he's very good friends with Ron Schertz, our owner. I've met Phil a few times. He's came out and played at some Rattler parties out at Ron's house.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, so Fitz is my guy. I mean, a phenomenal fiddle player. So we're going to try. I have the gig for April 23rd. That's just my regular band. But if that goes well, we're going to try to put something together the Saturday before or the Saturday in between. So May 23rd, the Saturday in between, obviously, the games out there in New Jersey with the IFL Cup. So I think we can get a pretty good crowd there. Jared's trying to make sure that I get something booked that week.
Yeah, he just called me today about Yankee tickets, so he's wanting to go to a Yankees game. So I told him we may catch one while we're in town. But so as a coach, we have to build a roster every year, and there's a lot of turnover in our business. But you had to build your own roster this year, putting a roster together of broadcasters for the league. Tell us a little bit about the process and just kind of tell us a little bit about how that all came together.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I got to give Todd Tryon and Jared Widman a ton of credit. Jared spearheaded it, no question about it. He asked me to kind of help and to become the director of broadcasting and assist him in that way. And, I got with one of my a guy that used to represent me in the business named Ethan Routbort, and he helped us find, I think, 8 or 9, on-air folks right away. And we were kind of looking for some up-and-comers and people that, just wanted the more opportunity to get on the sidelines, to get in the booth. And so he got us 8 or 9 really young, talented people that we feel like have a huge upside. And at the same time, we wanted to mix it with veterans. A guy like Mark May is coming back to do some games, which is really cool. Danny Cannell, who played arena football in between independent baseball and, of course, his NFL career. Lincoln Kennedy has already done a couple of games. Got J.J. Jansen, who's currently the long snapper, still playing in the NFL for Carolina. Dave Ryan is a veteran play-by-play guy. Alex Cohen does the Chicago Cubs games when Boog Shambi doesn't do them. So it's a huge roster. I think we're over 60 people right now, and it's a mix of veterans and up-and-comers, and got some men and women as well that we feel really good about. But it was a huge undertaking, and got to give Jared all the credit. I was kind of a small part of it in assisting him and helping him out, putting together that roster.
Well, certainly we've already seen the quality of the work you guys are doing. The broadcasts they're professional. They look great. Everything just looks, top notch, which is obviously what, everybody's shooting for. So, you can tell the difference, even from last year to this year. You can really see that you guys have gone out and gotten some of the most top-notch people. So Brent, we appreciate you joining us for a few minutes. Love the country music stuff. That's Kevin obviously doing his research on you. So I don't know if he was looking for some stuff on you or just went out to find the good stuff.
No, I always do my research on people. But next time I have this week. On my sideline, I had Jason last week. Try to give me a better looking sideline reporter next week.
We can definitely do that. We'll do a better job of that. And by the way, I got to shout out. the guys I left out of the mix, Anthony Herron and Sed Bonner and Ari Wolf, obviously they go way back in the sport.
Oh, sure.
So when Jared talks about saying that I was his first hire, the moment I got the job, the first two guys I went and got, really the first three were Sed Bonner, and we knew Curtis Riggs was obviously going to be a huge part of it, but went out and got Sed Bonner and Ari Wolf and Anthony Herron. So pretty cool. I'm excited to run around with those guys. And Kevin, I got to say, this is kind of fun being on this side of it. So good questions, man.
Yeah, you know what? Those are my guys. Cedric's in our Ring of Honor there at the Rattlers, and I've known Ari and the rest of those guys. I know all those guys. We got a lot of history together.
All right, Brent. Well, thanks a whole bunch. We appreciate you joining us from far away, and we'll see you Saturday.
You got it, guys. Looking forward to it. Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Thanks a bunch.
Thank you, Brent. Yep.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to Rattlers Uncoiled. I'm Jay Gonzalez, Media Director of the Arizona Rattlers, here with head coach Kevin Guy. We're going to talk about the game coming up, right? But then we're going to go into a new feature that we brought in. We've asked our season ticket holders to send some questions for Kevin, so we're going to run those past him and try and get some answers to some things people have kind of always wondered about. But Kevin, we've got the Gunslingers coming in. They've got one game under their belt. How much do we know about them? And what kind of a game do you expect to see on Saturday?
We don't know a lot about them. I mean, new head coach, new coordinators, the personnel on their staff has changed over, a lot. They battled with Tulsa. We got one film on them, one game film, and they have two on us. So I've always said the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season are like, it's all about adjustments. And, we don't have preseason games in indoor football league. Right. So our first 3-4 games are preseason games that actually count against the record.
Exactly.
So we're, every coach in this league is trying to, make adjustments throughout the week. And it's a game of adjustments because, there's a lot of movement during the off season. But, they played 2 quarterbacks the first game. Defensively they played well, and they're going to be a tough. San Antonio has always played us tough, so it should be a great game Saturday night.
So at this point, you're coming off this loss, and are you more concerned about what you're doing and who you are as opposed to what they're doing?
Yeah, well, you got to know your opponent. There's no doubt about that. But at this stage in the season, we're more worried about us and what we're doing and what we have control over, and just dialing into our training, trusting our training, and technique, fundamentals, our mechanics. And we got to play better, and but there's just a learning curve to this game, and it's just a process that you got to go through. But back to San Antonio, I expect them to come in and play us tough. I mean, they were getting after us last year, the first half at home, and then they had some key injuries, and it kind of changed the direction of the game. And then we went down and played them down in their place last year, and we had to convert a 4th down to be able to run out the clock. So they've always really played us well, and they got a new head coach that's brought new energy to the organization and to the program. So they did a lot of empties the first game, and they let the quarterbacks throw it around a little bit. But I'm expecting to see some stuff that we saw last week, and we made sure that we put that in our scripts this week. Because they're going to see that, and I'm sure they're going to come and test us, and see if we corrected our mistakes from last week.
Right, try and do a little bit of what Fishers did, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Something new we saw last week. You had both running backs active. Both got some time. Yeah. Kimo Clark and Ron Brown Jr. What's the plan, or is there a plan? Or are you just trying to get it, see what you got?
The plan is to get the best athletes on the field, and whatever we got to do that, then that's how we're going to look at it. And we got some really good weapons on offense this year. We're dynamic at the running back position. Between the two of them, they scored 5 touchdowns this past weekend, and we knew going into the game, if you watched the film on Fisher, that the running back was going to be the quarterback's best friend. We got to settle Max down a little bit. It's a new offense for him. I understand he won MVP last year, and was the MVP of the league. But he's in a new system. He's with a new team, new personnel. There's a learning curve to that. And, some of the pressure he's been getting is because he's been drifting in the pocket a little bit and causing some of that pressure. So we got to get him to settle down, get back to his mechanics and footwork and in the pocket, and, going through his progressions. It's new terminology for him. You hear a lot of coaches say, well, a lot of teams run the same plays. Well, that's not true. But the terminology is different, so it automatically makes your mind think different. And, he's got to go through his progressions, and he's going to be fine. He's a playmaker, and he's a great leader, great young man, great human being, and we've really enjoyed having him on the team. But he's going through it like everybody else is.
Well, that's a perfect segue then into our first edition of Rattlers Uncoiled Q&A. We asked our season ticket holders to send us some questions that they've wanted to ask Kevin, so we're going to fire away with these. And so, following up on what you just talked about, Paul in Phoenix asks, what do you look for in a quarterback, both as a starter and a backup?
Well, the backup doesn't. I don't look for anything different in a backup. If the starter goes down, you better have somebody that's ready to play. So, the first thing that I look at, when we were in the Arena League, the quarterback had to be able to throw the sail route, and out of the high motion, and it's more of a one ball. You got to throw the ear hole, 45-degree breaking at about 10 yards down the field. In this game, you still want your quarterback to be able to throw that sail route, but a lot of teams play a lot more zone. So you got to have a guy that can go through his progressions, and then you got to have a guy that can extend plays with his feet. And make some plays when things break down, because you can cover everything up if you want to in this game with different coverages. So dropping defensive linemen and all that stuff. So when that happens, you either can throw it away or you can take off and make some plays with your feet. And in both games this year, our quarterback has made some plays with his feet.
Well, when we've seen you brought Drew Powell in as your backup for now. So. You got two guys, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't really, I've never called that guy a backup quarterback, because you're always one play away. And, I got two former MVPs, so I don't look at Drew as a backup. He's a guy that can take us where we want to go if something happens with Max. And those guys are competing. Neither one was promised a job. They had to come in and compete. And that's the way we do it at the Rattlers. And, a lot of coaches sign guys and say, all right, this guy's going to be our starting guard or our starting defensive end or starting safety. And we just don't think that way. We sign the best players that we can, and we let them fight it out in camp, and they determine who's going to start. And, we're all about competition. I really believe that competition breeds success.
All right, from Kevin in Buckeye, as well as Jared and Daniel in Peoria, they want to know, why don't you go for the deuce more often? Where the kickoff goes through the uprights, you score a couple of points. There've been a couple of those against us.
Yeah, sure.
What about the Rattlers? What's your philosophy on those?
Well, it's a couple of things. Got to have the confidence to call it, during the game. So that means we got to make some during the week at practice. If we're not making them in practice, I don't really have a lot of confidence to call them in the game. And in the 2 or 3 years that we've been kicking the deuce in the IFL, we have not had anyone consistently hitting the deuce. We will do it if it's situational. Right. Our kicker, Matt, he's definitely got the leg to do it. But the balls in this league are different than the outdoor game, just made from a different material.
I don't think people know that.
Yeah, there is. And then, the ball that we're using now is different than what we used in the last few years, the ball we used the last two years. And every kicker in the league has said this ball is different. And then the other thing from a philosophy standpoint, we want opportunities to get stops. And if you get the ball automatically at the 20-yard line, we want to run down. We take a lot of pride in running down and tackling you inside the 10, 5-yard line and putting that pressure on you as a defense where, when you're coming out of that end zone and you got to get the ball out quick or you hold it and we get a chance to make a play. So, it kind of fits our team philosophy. We're a pressure offense and we're a pressure defense where you play a lot of teams in this league and they're a bend but don't break. But I'm a big believer that bend but don't break gets you bent right over the goal line. So we want to play high possession games and so it's really about our philosophy. But listen, it's about investing in percentages when it comes to that deuce. I mean, if you're only going to make 1 out of every 9, we're giving up a lot of field position to
do
make
that.
one deuce.
Right. All right. Richard in Phoenix wants to know, how do you keep from getting thrown out when the referees continuously make the game-altering bad call? For example, last year's playoffs and the illegal blitz called against Fisher's Freight on Sunday.
Yeah. So, well, listen, I have told myself, I made a promise, I'm going to leave these referees alone this year. But, you know, they make mistakes. But, you know, listen, I'm an emotional guy, you know, and especially in the moment. And I'm one of those guys, I'm a venter. And then once I vent, I'm over it and I move on. And, you know, it's difficult because, you know, I've always told the team, I tell the team all the time, look, you're playing. Not only are you playing, let's say we're playing San Antonio this weekend. We're not just playing San Antonio. We're playing ourselves. We can't be victims of ourselves. We're also playing the referees. They have, you know, a lot of judgment calls that can go for you or against you. They're human beings. You got to be careful how far you take that. You know, and, you know, so there's a lot of factors that go into it. It's difficult. I really got to be careful because I call the offense and the defense, and obviously getting thrown out, that would really hurt us. So, you know, even though I have a lot of faith in my assistant coaches that they could come in, I think that they've been in enough meetings and been trained that they could step in if we had to. But, you know, at the same time, you know, it's hard sometimes. It's hard because I like to make things personal sometimes, and it's hard not to.
Well, sometimes looking at you, it looks like it's hard. So
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's like last week. I had to waste a challenge. We got 5 officials on the field, and nobody saw that we made our extra point. I mean,
yeah.
But everybody else saw it. Fisher saw it. We saw it. I don't know where the eyes were, but you know. The referee, head referee, was behind the kicker. He was the one watching the field goal. I mean, the extra point. And I'm like, well, what are the other guys doing? Why don't we not have more than one referee watching the? And this has happened a few times since I've been in the indoor football league. That, you know, they've made. So, you know, look, they're humans too. It's just like. I get on my assistant coaches sometimes when it comes to making adjustments during the game. I'm like, hey, are you watching the game like a fan? Are you actually watching your position, you know, that is going to give me some feedback, you know, during the game? And, you know, the refs can be guilty of that sometimes too now. You know, they can get caught up in what's happening in the game. You know, you got to remember they're on the field. It's a small field. They got to move out of the way a lot because the traffic's coming towards them. And, you know, so sometimes their eyes are not always where they need to be because they have to move keep from getting ran over.
Right. All right, well, that's our edition of Rattlers Uncoiled. We've got the San Antonio Gunslingers coming into town, 6 o'clock Saturday at the Snake Pit. We hope you're going to be there. Get your tickets as soon as you can. We're trying to get off to a good start here, so we want to bounce back a little bit from the loss last week, but Kevin's looks like he's ready to go. The team's ready to go. A couple more practices this week and get prepared for a great game on Saturday. So we appreciate you being here, and we'll see you next time on Rattlers Uncoiled.
I see.
Don't ever question me, baby. Look at those banners up in the air.